Good evening, Grace Covenant. Here I am again with an evening devotional, and it's even later than the last one. It's dark, but this is a beautiful place to sit in the dark on our porch, listening to the crickets, listening to some dogs out in the distance, some cows, hearing the horses down eating their hay. So I like sitting out. I like having to come outside at night. It's actually a really grounding time, especially when there are a lot of stars out, looking up at the sky and remembering that we are a part of an infinite world, and we are loved by an infinitely loving God. So anyway, I had a beautiful devotion planned today. I had some footage of the horses and the dogs. I had some Taizé music. I even started putting it together. I was almost done with it around noonish today, but some stuff happened that I can't go into right now. A few pastoral things, a few other things, and so like 8 hours later or whatever, here I am, just now doing the devotion. So I am going to choose to believe that God's hand is in that, because that's what we're doing. So we're going to make it. We're going to make it something that ends up being better than that little well planned out thing I had going earlier. So I've been thinking a lot about just all the anxiety that is in the world right now, and all the harshness, all the abusiveness, all the scariness and kind of unknowns of the world. And just I've really been thinking a lot about the prophets and how the prophets spoke into cataclysm. They spoke into catastrophe. They spoke out to abusive leaders. People didn't like to hear from them generally. And how much we need prophets right now. People that are not afraid to speak truth to power, that can help to move our society, our culture into a new place, into a healing place, into a just place, a merciful place. I just feel like we're so sick right now. This virus is just really telling us about ourselves in ways that some people have been able to see for a long, long time, but some are just now seeing, and it's really demoralizing for some people to realize that some things they thought were true are not true. And it's also it can be really terrifying to realize that those who are in power don't really have our best interest at heart. That's a really helpless feeling. And then to not, kind of have this virus overlaid on that is something that it's easy to start to feel like there's nothing that we can do. We're just kind of sitting ducks. And just like we talked about last week, how we get grounded in ourselves and our bodies is really, really important. But I also want to say that not just how we get grounded in ourselves and our bodies, but how do we get grounded in a sacred story of what it is that God intends for us. Because if we don't have a sacred story that defines us, then this is all just scary and hopeless. But a sacred story helps us understand that even the worst things God can turn to divine purpose, and even in the worst possible scenarios there are healing opportunities. um, and I was thinking that we're just the people to be a part of that story, because Grace Covenant has kind of worked through some of our fear of realizing, like, actually we need to change. Actually, we need help. We need transformation. Um, and that transformation is hard. So why not us be a part of how this sacred story gets told in a pandemic? And this week in worship, we're going to be reading a passage from Acts, in which Paul says, God is not about a building. God is not about a golden calf, or that God's people are, you know, God's people are the ones that realize God is everywhere, not just located in a certain culture or a certain space or a certain practice or a certain icon or object. So, what does it mean that we are people who actually believe God is everywhere? And what does it mean that we're people that actually believe that God is especially present to the brokenhearted and to the suffering, and that God is especially at work cultivating justice and equity and mercy and love? Like, that's who we are. That's what we believe is going on in the world, even right now during a pandemic. And that's not just about us finding nice little stories of someone being nice to somebody. That's about us believing that God is at work cultivating a new world, a transformed world in which people will get what they need, in which people can trust each other, in which this peaceful night is something that we can all just relax into, that people don't have to fear, that people don't have to suffer because of cruelty or abuse of power. That's the kind of world God is cultivating. Can we tell that story to the world right now? Again, that doesn't mean we're just like, everything's going to be okay, everybody. Look at how nice people are. They're singing to each other, whatever. That's not what this is about. This is truly about us trusting that the world can be better, and that is what God intends for the world, and that God intends all of us to have a part of that. That is about more than just me staying grounded or enjoying these mountains. That's about me being brave and you being brave. And that's also about us seeing ourselves as a part of this big story, that what we say and do in the story matters. And the ones who've gone before us were willing to risk a lot to tell that story and to call people into it in a way that has integrity. And I feel really hopeful when I think about that our community has a purpose right now. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be in a community that wants to tell that story of a new world in which justice rolls down like living water, and the world where, the peace that passes understanding is something we can all say, "Ah, yes, I know that feeling, and I'm so glad you know it too." And the world in which love is known for its potency, and um, and it's something that we can all choose to trust. So I hope that this evening time together in quiet, in the embrace of the crickets and the stars and the stillness, emboldens us to remember who we are. We're people not afraid to tell a sacred story that said this world is worth every healing opportunity that God puts in front of us. Good night, and I pray that you sleep well. And maybe next week we'll be together in the daylight for this devotion. Blessings to you.